Hello everyone and welcome to another video. Today is a very, very exciting day as I am at Edinburgh spaceship fitting. Just kidding, Edinburgh bike fitting, as I have a new P3X from Cervelo who I have partnered with for the next year. So a few extreme triathlons and a few other things on the go, but they have very kindly supplied me with a new bike, which you'll see all about. First things first, need to get the cranks changed, which is happening right now. Then I'm just going to get fitted because we are 2 weeks and 1 day out from the Celtman. So all the advice of don't change anything before race day is being thrown right out the window, and you'll understand why when you see this bike. So without any further ado, let's head in. Never used these before either.
The Di2? Yeah. Don't even ask me how to change into a little ring.
Oh my god, my pedal stroke feels so much smoother already.
Just with a short.
Holy shit!
Yeah, so one of the nice things about the fit when you're doing it, well, like we do it here, we've got the camera system so you can essentially play the movement back, so I can show Fergus what he looks like at 100 frames a second, which is pretty cool. But then it's just being able to turn the position around and look at it in different ways. Play it back a few times, back and forward. You can really get some detail with the way a leg's moving, and it could just give you a lot of ideas to, like, you know, why you might want to make a certain change, or is there enough space in the, you know, over the top of the pedal stroke and the hip. That's a kind of common one that we've had.
Well, yeah, it was my spine, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You could see it.
It was a knock-on effect. It was a knock-on effect of, like, your hip was coming up too high, so then you rolled your hips back to give yourself more space, and then that meant his back has to twist into this horrible position and kind of flex forwards from the bars, which makes his arms uncomfortable. And then straight away with the right crank line.
I spent most of the second half of my ride at the weekend like this.
Just keeping yourself forward because your body was trying to pull you back. And then instantly change the cranks, and it's like a massive difference. So then it's a lot of the time it's like, what will one little change unlock for the rest of the position, really? Which
for the 2 week training cycle that I've got remaining.
Yeah, we've got loads of time to adapt to this position, which is brilliant. When I'm looking at you, my initial thought is, oh, you just look a little bit high at the front and a bit too stretched out. Don't worry. Almost like you're just kind of riding a boat as opposed to like being locked in position. So there's a bit of movement in your hips that I think we can close down. The problem is with that, I don't want to. There's only so far we can hinge you here, because just in the past when we've tried that, it kind of creates other issues. And so what I want to see is if we can maybe move the saddle slightly further forward.
Yep.
And lower the bar very slightly. I think that would allow you to be more comfortable when you're here and just have some tension just to pull you forward a little bit so that your hips are a little bit more stable, because I don't really like how that right hip's dropping when you ride. So when you see, but some of it is what you're doing with your foot
on the right.
On the right, yeah. And so if you look at the angle of that foot when you go past halfway down the pedal stroke, it's still fairly pointed.
Yeah. What's it like on the left?
On the left, it's 6 degrees better. It's not perfect, but it is better, and it sort of stays it stays better through the bottom of the pedal stroke, and it just means all the time that you've got more extension in that knee and more tension in the hamstring, so you'll be using it better.
That makes sense when my hammy was nailed on Sunday then.
Well, the left one, and it just also, I think, is meaning that you're moving up and down less on the left. So if you look at that one there, hip up and down, 44-50 on the right, and so let's look at the right. That toe is, if you think about it, if you're halfway down the pedal stroke and your toe's still pointing forwards, that pedal is going like backwards, and your toe's pushing forwards still. And so then the pedal's going that way and your foot's going that way, so your knee's bending and your hips dropping in. So
So that's today done. Bit of a quick fire bike fit with Dougie. He's worked with me before, so I've got a pretty good understanding of what I'm capable of, as I'm sure you've seen, what my limitations are and how that applies to this. Now, 2 weeks to get used to it, so I've got my first ride outdoors tomorrow to get used to the pedal stroke, get used to the position and just get a feel for it and build some volume in that position. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this in the back of the truck, get home, get sorted, and I'll see you tomorrow for a ride where I can let you know how this feels on the roads. Good morning. So bike fit done yesterday, just enough to get me rolling, and speaking of rolling, I'm about to head out onto the roads. But before I do, I thought it's probably worth actually giving you a rundown of the bike itself. So this is the Cervelo P3X. It's a weapon, I don't need to tell you that, that's kind of pretty obvious. These, I'll just run you through the basics. So we've got an 11-speed drivetrain, these are 165 cranks which I've had put on, just took the pedals off my Ribble. We've got the Ultegra Di2 shifters, so these are electric shifters, lost my slider down there. Electric shifters, up, down. There's a way that you can change the settings as well so that you can make it big gear, small gear, and then work within, but I'm just going to stick with up and down and see how I get on. What's really exciting about this bike is because it's made for triathlon, storage is a huge part of it. So down here we have a toolbox, which I've already got spare tube, tool, and some tyre levers in. I'll probably get some CO2 counters and some tubeless sealant in there once I get the NVs on instead of the DT Swiss wheels. That's another story, but I will put that back in there. We then have another storage box here, which I'm not actually quite sure what I'm going to put in here yet, because in terms of spare food I won't need it for the Celtman because I've got the support car, but maybe a spare tube or two, maybe a few other canisters, maybe some backup food in case I get caught out. Whatever, I'll figure it out. I'll do a bit of planning over the next couple of weeks and let you know. We have a water bottle slot here and a water bottle slot here. I'd need to get a few more specific actual holders for that so that they're all set up, but that is the basics of that. We've then got a bento box here with storage that actually goes down into the frame itself, so plenty of space there for just grab and go gels, any sort of energy bars or anything. The adjustability is very, very big as well. I mean, it's set up to me now and you probably saw that yesterday, but there's a whole load of movement in here. This is a large frame, I believe, and then the actual stem is just in there with an Allen key, and you can adjust it up and down. So in comparison to the Ribble, how easy it is to adjust is a completely different ball game, not gonna lie. I mean, it's a completely different bike, it's leagues ahead, but in terms of how easy it is to adjust, huge thumbs up there. I'm not going to bore you death by details, you can go on and look at the specs yourself, and quite frankly I'm still getting actually on board with what all the specs are. I'll drip feed that to me so I can actually understand what they all mean. But got the disc brakes as well, which is something I need to get used to. These ones just need embedded in a little bit because they're obviously new, so I'm going to need to be quite careful today on this ride. But that's pretty much it. Only things that I need to get used to are disc brakes, electronic shifters, because yesterday on the turbo my gear changes were pretty heavy and aggressive, so I need to get a bit softer on the pedal stroke now that I'm not using mechanical gearing. But practice makes perfect, eh? So that's that. Saddle, very comfortable yesterday, great first impressions, and obviously the key detail, which I should have mentioned, it's missing a full seat post, and the reason behind that is that So the reason behind that is that all the impact that's coming through the back wheel up into my lower body, my nether regions, my spine and my legs will add up over time, and with the roads in the UK being as rough and as sticky as they are, getting rid of this means that there's going to be way less impact going through me up here, which means over time less fatigue in my legs, more energy for the run, and just less overall energy used on the bike itself. So that is why that's not there, because it just means that the battering, the rumbling and the vibrations that come from the ground up the way aren't going through my body, they're going through the frame, which is why it's shaped the way it is. So that's a bit of a top line debrief. If you do want more information, I've put a link to all the specs in the description down below. I'm going to get on the bike, give it a wear out and see how it feels. Some conservative spinning around the estate first of all, so I get used to this, get the brakes embedded in a little bit, and then I'll see you on the coastline. It allows me to work so much harder. Yeah. Alright, so 20k down in 37 minutes. So I'm absolutely screaming down the road, into a headwind as well. Main difference is not having the seat post means that over the rough roads, it feels like what I would have previously been standing up to avoid, I can stay in the aero position on. What I'm already noticing though is changing position. Basically I've been in aero the whole time. So just a bit of stress in here, a little bit of stress up here, which is just getting used to a new position, but this thing is fast, like fast. Shame about me, because I'm not fast, so job done. No need to be good at triathlon, just get a better bike, obviously. So I'm going to keep going for about 45 minutes more. Going to do about 2 hours of riding into about 30 minutes of a brick. But just getting used to this position. Pedal stroke feels much smoother with the shorter cranks. Overall smoothness around corners and everything feels solid. Only thing to get used to is the brakes aren't embedded, so I do not have much stopping power. But that hasn't been a problem yet, so let's hope nobody opens any doors sideways, but I'm going to crack on. Goodbye. Alright, so first thing worth mentioning is that I can't stop laughing because this is absolutely absurd and I'm moving like a demon, but 32.5k done. GPS cut out annoyingly at the start, so I'm sort of 7.5k behind on my watch to where we are normally, but this is Delton for anyone that knows, so moving at a very solid pace, 1 hour and 1 minute past 32.5k, so speedy, zoom zoom. Anyway, lots of people doing the virtual Edinburgh Marathon today, so if you're watching this and you're taking part, let me know in the comments down below how you got on. Hope it went well. Thought before I wrap up as well, before I head back into Edinburgh, I'd mentioned the actual key differences between a normal road bike and a triathlon bike or a TT bike. TT bikes are basically more bike specific, whereas triathlon bikes have a few things on them that you wouldn't get on a specific time trial bike. So obviously first thing to mention is the aero bars. You can add these to a road bike, but if it's built as part of the frame set, then it's a bit more efficient overall. There's lots of things that you can add on to your bike setup to make you more aerodynamic. Above and beyond, the most effective one is cutting the air out the front with the aero bars. So having these set up as part of the bike means that you can spend more time in this position cutting through the air. You've got the gear shifters on the end rather than here as you normally have them on a road bike, which means that you can stay in the aero position and change gears. Obviously everything's just sharper, more aerodynamic, and you're in a bit more of a hip dominant position because you go from sitting a bit more upright to obviously having a bit more of a raise, a bit more of a lean forward, which allows you to get a bit more of a drive backwards. What that does as well is it takes a bit of pressure off your legs so that when you come off the bike onto the run, you've used less energy in your legs, getting you to that point so you've got more left on the run in theory. And with this bike specifically, that's why it's missing the back seat post, because that takes the impact from the seat upwards away from my body itself. Other than that, road bikes are better on hills. You've got more control on road bikes. TT or triathlon bikes are not sort of group cycling friendly because you're a lot more volatile to crosswinds. I've got a back disc on the way and some 65s for the front, which will make this an absolute speed demon. But again, if you've got crosswinds, you're going to get blown sideways. So it's a case of managing what you've got. And other than that, yeah, the other thing to mention is the storage. So on triathlon bikes, obviously, as you're on a big race, you've got to carry a lot of stuff with you, because I can't remember who said it, but triathlon is about not the person that goes the fastest, but the person that slows down the least. And the best way to approach that is by keeping as much on you as possible so that you're consuming food, fluids as you go. This bento box here means that I can keep my food handy in the front, so I can chomp that as I go. Chomp, weird choice of word. I could have a hydration station on the front here, but what that would do is it would add a lot of drag at the front, which on the Celtman in the Highlands with the crosswinds might mean that this becomes like a woof. And I don't want that because I'm not used to controlling this bike that much yet. So what I'm going to do is have a water bottle here and a water bottle here, and then just drink as I go. But that'll take a bit of practice as well. Other thing is, we've got the storage here and I've got the toolbox on the bottom. You wouldn't normally have that on a road bike or on a TT bike, but for triathlon you've got those add-ons so that you're as efficient as possible over a long full distance race. Bit of a ramble. If you want more information, I'll try and find an article and link it in the description down below that explains it more succinctly and with a bit more information than I've just given you. But I'm going to head back to Edinburgh at speed. Might end up in the future, who knows.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
But that's me for today. Hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, make sure that you give it a like and that you have subscribed down below. We're not far out now, 14 days today to the Celtman, so this is basically just a final period of getting used to the position, getting used to the bike, and then I will be running into probably one of the most challenging races that I will ever do. So thanks again for watching, and see you next time.